Fire strikes Genoa City. Matt burns down Noah and Sienna's new club. Matt Clark isn't done messing with all his revenge targets. Now that Matt's a free man, he's prepared to make all his enemies pay. That includes Noah, Newman and Sienna backall, since Matt still blames them for their affair. Of course, Matt also hates Noah because he's Nick Newman and Sharon Newman's son, so he's got more than one reason to go after him. Sienna isn't going to get off scot-free either if Matt has anything to say about it. Matt can't stand the thought of Sienna and Noah living happily ever after, so he'll take steps to ruin their new beginning in Genoa City. Since Sienna mentioned that she's going to open a new club with Noah in town, that could be part of the story somehow. What if Matt burns that club down before Noah and Sienna can even complete it? That would certainly send a clear message to Sienna and Noah about what Matt is still capable of. Noah and Sienna might find the charred remnants of the building before Matt texts something creepy. Since Matt's previous riddle implied he was going to send Noah to hell, he might follow up on that and suggest he was giving Noah a preview of the flames. Matt might even try to trap Sienna and Noah inside depending on how far Y&R wants to take things. Whatever the case, Matt is a criminal at heart and will definitely commit more crimes in the coming weeks, so bad news is brewing. As Nick pointed out, Matt isn't a logical guy. We're talking about someone who's driven by vengeance and truly enjoys making his victims suffer. Matt will absolutely risk going back to prison as long as he has some fun making his foes miserable along the way. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Matt will cause more chaos for Noah, Sienna, Nick, Sharon and anyone else tangled up in this storyline, so stay tuned. In the ever-volatile world of the Young and the Restless, peace in Genoa City rarely lasts long, and just when residents believe the storm has passed, a darker one begins to gather. That is exactly the situation unfolding as the dangerously unpredictable Matt Clark resurfaces with a vengeance that threatens to ignite literal and emotional fires across town. After walking free once again, Matt has made it painfully clear that he has not forgiven anyone he believes betrayed him. The list of targets in his mind is long, but two names burn brighter than the rest: Noah Newman and Sienna backall. Their relationship, which blossomed in defiance of Matt's control and expectations, remains a deep wound in his twisted psyche. In Matt's mind, their affair was not simply a romantic betrayal. It was a humiliation that stripped him of power and respect. That humiliation has fermented into something far more dangerous, an obsession with revenge that now threatens to engulf the entire city in flames. For Noah, the situation is even more complicated because he carries the weight of his family name. As the son of Nick Newman and Sharon Newman, Noah has always been a symbolic target for those who harbor grudges against the Newman family. Matt's hatred toward the Newmans runs deep, and Noah represents everything Matt despises: privilege, resilience, and the kind of love Matt himself has never truly experienced. That personal resentment means Noah is not just another rival. He is a symbol Matt is determined to destroy. Meanwhile, Sienna's role in Matt's downfall fuels an equally intense rage. In Matt's mind, Sienna abandoned him, betrayed him, and then dared to rebuild her life as though he never existed. The idea that she might find happiness with Noah in the very city where Matt once tried to assert control is something he simply cannot tolerate. For Sienna, Genoa City represents a fresh start, a place where she and Noah can turn painful chapters into distant memories. She dreams of building something meaningful, something vibrant, and that dream has taken shape in the form of a new nightclub venture the couple plans to open together. The club is meant to symbolize rebirth, a modern, energetic space where music, lights, and laughter can drown out the echoes of the past. But unfortunately for them, the past has claws, and Matt Clark is determined to sink them deep into their future. As construction on the club moves forward, excitement quietly spreads among their friends and supporters. The project represents hope not just for Noah and Sienna but for many in Genoa City who want to see something new and exciting breathe life into the town's nightlife scene. However, beneath that hopeful anticipation lies an invisible threat. Matt is watching. Whether lurking in shadows, observing from afar, or gathering information through unknown means, he is carefully studying every step Noah and Sienna take. For someone like Matt, revenge is not simply about striking. It is about timing, spectacle, and psychological torment. Destroying the club before it even opens would accomplish all three goals. The club represents their future, their partnership, and their independence from him. If Matt reduces it to ashes, He does more than destroy a building. He destroys their symbol of hope. One dark night, long after construction crews have left and the streets of Genoa City grow quiet, a sinister plan may begin to unfold. Perhaps Matt slips through the unfinished structure like a ghost, his movements careful and deliberate. Maybe he studies the dimly lit interior, imagining the music that was meant to echo through its walls, the crowds that were supposed to dance beneath neon lights, and the smiles that would have celebrated Noah and Sienna's success. In Matt's mind, those images twist into something unbearable. Happiness is something he believes they do not deserve. Revenge, on the other hand, feels perfectly justified to him. And so he prepares to replace their dream with destruction. When morning arrives, the city could awaken to a horrifying sight. Thick smoke rising into the sky as emergency crews surround the charred remains of the building that once represented Noah and Sienna's future. The devastation would be immediate and unmistakable. Blackened beams, collapsed roofing, and scorched walls would tell the story of a fire that consumed everything in its path. The shock would ripple through Genoa City quickly, reaching not only Noah and Sienna but also their loved ones. Nick Newman would feel the protective instincts of a father ignite instantly. Sharon Newman would be shaken by the realization that Matt's threats were never empty. Friends and family would gather, struggling to process how quickly hope turned into devastation. For Noah and Sienna, standing in front of the ruins would be like witnessing their dreams crumble before their eyes. Every plan, every design, every moment spent imagining the club's opening night would now exist only as ashes scattered across the floor. But the worst part might not be the destruction itself. It might be the chilling message that follows. Matt, ever the manipulator, thrives on psychological warfare. It would be entirely in character for him to send a cryptic text message after the fire, something chilling and theatrical that reminds Noah of the sinister riddle he previously delivered. Perhaps the message reads like a taunt, suggesting that Noah has now seen only a preview of the flames waiting for him. That kind of message would confirm what everyone fears. The fire was no accident. It was a deliberate act meant to terrify, intimidate, and escalate Matt's campaign of revenge. The situation becomes even more terrifying when people begin to realize just how far Matt might be willing to go. Burning down an empty building is one thing, but what if he intended something far worse? The possibility that Matt might try to trap Noah and Sienna inside the club during a future confrontation becomes a horrifying scenario no one can ignore. Matt has already demonstrated that he is driven by obsession rather than logic. As Nick himself has pointed out, Matt is not someone who calculates consequences the way ordinary criminals do. He thrives on chaos, on the emotional suffering of his enemies, and on the adrenaline rush that comes from pushing boundaries. The threat of returning to prison does not deter him because, in his twisted mind, revenge is worth any cost. That mentality makes him extraordinarily dangerous. People like Matt do not simply lash out once and disappear, they escalate. Every act of destruction becomes a stepping stone towards something bigger, something more shocking. For Noah, the fire would mark the beginning of a new nightmare. Instead of focusing on rebuilding his life and his business, he would be forced to look over his shoulder constantly, wondering when Matt might strike again. Sienna, too, would face a crushing realization. Matt's obsession with her and Noah has not faded with time. If anything, it has grown stronger, more volatile, and more unpredictable. Meanwhile, Nick and Sharon would find themselves pulled deeper into the conflict, determined to protect their son at all costs. Nick's instincts would push him toward direct action, tracking down Matt, confronting him, and ending the threat once and for all. Sharon, however, might understand the psychological complexity of Matt's behavior better than most. She knows that confronting someone consumed by revenge can sometimes fuel the very chaos they crave. The tension between those two approaches could add another layer of drama to the unfolding storyline. Should the family strike back aggressively, or should they focus on protecting Noah while law enforcement handles Matt? Unfortunately, Matt's unpredictable nature makes either option risky. Even if authorities begin searching for evidence linking him to the fire, proving his involvement might not be easy. Matt is cunning enough to cover his tracks, leaving investigators chasing shadows while he continues plotting his next move. And as weeks pass, the residents of Genoa City may realize that the fire was not the end of Matt's revenge, it was only the beginning. The emotional scars left behind by the destruction of the club would linger, shaping every decision Noah and Sienna make moving forward. Rebuilding might be possible, but rebuilding trust in their safety will be far more difficult. Ultimately, the fire that consumes Noah and Sienna's club could become one of the most shocking turning points in the storyline. It would prove that Matt Clark is not merely a bitter ex-lover or a disgruntled enemy. He is a force of chaos willing to cross any line to satisfy his thirst for revenge. The destruction of the club would symbolize the devastating power of unresolved hatred, reminding everyone in Genoa City that the past is never truly buried. As the smoke clears and the investigation begins, one truth will become painfully obvious. Matt Clark is far from finished. His vendetta against Noah, Sienna, Nick, and Sharon is still burning, and unless someone stops him soon, the next fire he sets could be even more dangerous than the last. For fans watching the drama unfold on The Young and the Restless, the looming question will not simply be whether Matt will strike again. It will be who might be caught in the flames when he does. The aftermath of the devastating fire quickly becomes one of the most talked about crises in The Young and the Restless, sending shockwaves throughout Genoa City. As firefighters finally extinguish the last stubborn flames licking at the skeleton of the destroyed nightclub, the scene resembles a war zone more than the hopeful business venture that once stood there. Twisted metal beams jut toward the gray morning sky, blackened bricks crumble beneath investigators' boots, and the bitter smell of smoke lingers in the air like a reminder that something sinister has just taken place. For Noah Newman, the sight is almost impossible to process. Only days earlier he had stood on that very ground imagining music blasting through speakers, crowds filling the dance floor, and laughter echoing against the walls. The club was supposed to represent a new chapter for him and Sienna Bacall, a future built on determination, creativity, and a shared belief that they could overcome the darkness of their past. Instead, they now stand before a pile of charred remains that symbolizes how fragile that dream truly was. Sienna struggles even more visibly with the devastation. As she stares at the burned structure, her expression shifts between shock, heartbreak, and simmering fear. She knows, deep down, that the fire was not an accident. There are too many coincidences, too many threats that came before this moment. One name hangs unspoken between her and Noah, Matt Clark. Although neither of them says it at first, they both understand who is capable of such destruction. Matt's history of manipulation, intimidation, and criminal behavior makes him the most obvious suspect. Yet knowing it and proving it are two very different things. The police may begin their investigation immediately, but Matt has always been clever enough to avoid leaving obvious evidence behind. That uncertainty gnaws at Sienna's nerves. If Matt truly did this, it means he is still watching them, still plotting, still waiting for opportunities to strike again. When Nick Newman arrives at the scene, his reaction is instant and explosive. Nick has faced countless enemies over the years, but nothing fuels his anger like a threat against his family. Seeing his son standing among the wreckage instantly ignites that protective fire inside him. Nick scans the destruction with clenched fists, already forming a conclusion that mirrors Noah's own suspicions. To Nick, the situation feels painfully familiar. Matt Clark has always been unpredictable and vindictive, the kind of man who would happily destroy someone's livelihood just to prove he still has power over them. Nick wastes no time voicing his belief that Matt is behind the fire. His anger intensifies as he considers the possibility that Noah and Sienna could have been inside when the blaze started. The mere thought sends a chill through him. If Matt is willing to burn down a building, what is stopping him from targeting people next? Soon after, Sharon Newman arrives as well, her concern etched clearly across her face. Sharon's perspective is slightly different from Nick's. While she shares the same fear for Noah's safety, she also understands the psychological patterns that drive someone like Matt. Sharon has encountered dangerous individuals before, and she knows that revenge-obsessed people rarely stop after a single act. For Matt, the fire may simply be the opening move in a twisted game. Sharon gently tries to keep everyone focused on safety rather than retaliation, reminding Nick and Noah that confronting Matt directly could escalate the situation further. Still, the tension between caution and anger becomes impossible to ignore. Nick wants justice, and he wants it quickly. Meanwhile, investigators begin combing through the ruins for clues. Fire marshals carefully analyze burn patterns, searching for signs of accelerants or tampering that would indicate arson. The longer they examine the wreckage, the clearer it becomes that the blaze likely did not start naturally. Certain areas burned hotter than others, suggesting that flammable substances may have been used to accelerate the flames. Although no official conclusion is announced yet, whispers among investigators hint that someone deliberately set the fire. For Noah and Sienna, that possibility confirms their worst fears. Matt Clark might be escalating his revenge campaign. The situation becomes even more unsettling later that day when Noah's phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. At first he assumes it might be a reporter asking questions about the fire. But when he opens the message, the words send a cold shiver down his spine. The text contains only a short sentence, but its meaning is unmistakable. A cryptic reference to fire, hell, and unfinished business. Instantly, Noah remembers the eerie riddle Matt sent him before. That earlier message hinted that Noah would soon experience the heat of what's coming. Now, standing in front of the burned ruins of his club, the meaning feels terrifyingly literal. Someone deliberately destroyed the building, and they want Noah to know it was a warning. When Noah shows the message to Nick and Sharon, the mood becomes even darker. Nick's anger explodes once again, and this time he is determined to confront Matt personally. He refuses to let a criminal terrorize his family without consequences. Sharon, however, urges caution, reminding Nick that Matt may be hoping for exactly that reaction. If Matt is manipulating events from the shadows, provoking Nick into a confrontation could be part of his plan. The tension between Nick's instinct for action and Sharon's call for strategy adds another layer of drama to the situation. Meanwhile, Sienna begins grappling with guilt that she struggles to express. Deep down, she fears that Matt's obsession with revenge is rooted in his history with her. If she had never crossed paths with Matt, or if their relationship had ended differently, perhaps Noah would not be facing this danger now. She confides these fears to Noah in a quiet moment away from the chaos of the investigation. Noah quickly reassures her that the blame belongs entirely to Matt. Still, Sienna cannot shake the feeling that Matt's anger toward her remains a driving force behind everything happening now. As days pass, tension spreads throughout Genoa City. Rumors about the fire circulate quickly, and many residents begin discussing Matt Clark's possible involvement. Some remember the trouble he caused before, while others fear that his latest actions signal the beginning of a dangerous new chapter. For the Newman family, the stakes feel especially personal. If Matt is targeting Noah, it means the entire family could become part of his revenge narrative. Behind the scenes, Matt may be watching these developments unfold with twisted satisfaction. In his mind, the fire represents more than destruction, it represents control. By burning down Noah and Sienna's club, he has proven that he can still reach into their lives whenever he wants. The psychological impact of that realization is exactly what he craves. Matt has always enjoyed the emotional suffering of his enemies even more than the physical damage he causes. Seeing them anxious, fearful, and uncertain feeds his obsession with power. But Matt's plans may not stop with the club. If the writers of The Young and the Restless choose to push the storyline further, the fire could simply be the beginning of a much larger escalation. Matt might attempt to sabotage other aspects of Noah and Sienna's lives, whether through intimidation, stalking, or additional crimes designed to keep them on edge. The unpredictability of his behavior makes it impossible to know what he might do next. One day he could remain silent, allowing tension to build. The next, he could strike again in a shocking and dangerous way. For Noah, the experience begins to change his outlook on everything. Before the fire, he believed that building the club with Sienna would mark a fresh start. Now he realizes that moving forward may require confronting the darkness of the past rather than simply trying to escape it. He becomes more determined to stand up to Matt rather than letting fear dictate his decisions. At the same time, Noah understands that reckless actions could put everyone he loves at greater risk. Balancing courage with caution becomes his greatest challenge. Nick also begins exploring ways to protect his family more effectively. Whether that means increasing security, cooperating closely with law enforcement, or investigating Matt's movements personally, Nick refuses to remain passive while a threat looms over his son's life. Sharon, meanwhile, focuses on supporting Noah emotionally, reminding him that fear and anger can cloud judgment. She encourages him to stay grounded and to remember that revenge does not define who he is. Sienna faces her own internal battle. The destruction of the club threatens not only her financial investment but also her sense of independence. Rebuilding the business would require enormous effort, resources, and emotional strength. Yet Sienna begins to consider whether refusing to rebuild would mean letting Matt win. If his goal was to destroy her and Noah's future, the most powerful response might be refusing to give up on that future. Eventually, the investigation into the fire may start pointing more directly toward Matt Clark. Perhaps security footage captures a suspicious figure near the building before the blaze began, or maybe investigators uncover traces of accelerant that lead them closer to identifying the culprit. Even if the evidence is circumstantial at first, pressure on Matt could intensify. But confronting someone like Matt is never simple. If authorities move too slowly, he might strike again. If they move too aggressively without solid proof, he might slip away.